「 Hello, friends. How are we doing? I'm coming hot off the heels of an Ironsworn game, playing a very sad, grumpy man. So this is not a far shot off from where I was for the last 3 hours. Yay, crying! Let's see. Whomst is here. Hello, Anna. Hello, Lynn. Hello, Noelle. I see Len. I see Jolie. I see King. Greetings, friends. My glasses are also smeared and yucky. I think I'm just gonna take them off. I often take them off during these streams because I don't really need them to see, which sounds weird. I need them for distance. But like my prescription is so low as to not be that big a deal. I'm not at a substantial disadvantage if I take off my glasses. I can still see and read things pretty far away. And everything up close is fine. It's much more to guard against fatigue these days from being in front of a screen for so long. And also, I just kind of like the way they look on me. Oof. Yeah, you definitely have a stronger prescription than me, Anna. If mine were any weaker, they couldn't make glasses for me, is what I was told. So... But in fairness, I got LASIK surgery when I was like 23. And it's just now it's starting to wear off a tiny bit. But even before that, my vision wasn't terribly bad. I spent my entire youth just not bothering to wear glasses, even though I technically needed them. My vision is always just blurry enough to be kind of annoying, not debilitating. I could never do contacts. I just have a... I don't think I would have an issue putting them on my eye. The issue is more like when it comes to taking them off, because like I struggle real hard with getting something too close to or in my eye. I might be able to manage it more now than I could years ago. Like before, I couldn't even do eye makeup. My eyes were so much like, don't get anything near me. But I've obviously gotten used to that, and I have stabbed myself in the eyeball with a mascara wand often enough. I don't recommend that, but it happens sometimes. Well, the timer has run down. Shall we, get into this and get sad? Woo! Let's get sad about samurai. Sad Saturdays Sad Samurai Saturdays is really hard to say. Boom. Okay, let's go. Let's do this thing. Meanwhile, my cat screams in the other room because he must. There we go. Wee! I really do like that opening. Thank you for the host, Len. All right, where did we leave off? That's right. Hijikata was like hella injured or something. Not that he ever lets that stop him. So yeah, last time around we tried to take Utsunomiya Castle and we really sucked. We ran smack into Kazuma, who went and dug up his family's magical demon fighting sword. Because he couldn't beat Hijikata any other way. And Hijikata got wrecked. And the only reason that fight ended without Hijikata being hella dead is because the castle started to burn down and Kazuma had to fuck off. Amagiri basically like had some final words for us that amounted to like, he's your problem now, but just remember we don't condone what he's doing, so don't blame us. Okay, bye. Shimada showed up, helped us drag Hijikata's bloodied, beaten, battered ass out of there, and then we, got back to HQ and Sundry. So that was fine. This is all definitely fine. We got the news that Kondo had been executed. We even got a CG about it. Hijikata doesn't seem like he's dealt with that reality at all. Not where we can see it anyway. I am so concerned. So anyway, that's where we're at. Yeah, that CG was unfair. It sure was. Yes, Hijikata has compartmentalized his grief into a tiny, tiny box and threw away the key, and he's buried it somewhere in the back of his room.
By the time Hijikata's injuries had fully healed, it was nearly mid-August. Battles still raged across the Aizu domain, but the advantage was slowly moving to the Imperial Army. Our troops were being driven into a corner. Then one day, Shimada burst into the room, gasping for breath.
大鳥さんからの伝令が届きました。
Oh, I hope it's good news.
曰く、仙台にて再起をかけると。
Oh shit.
仙台藩というと、奥羽越列藩同盟の盟主とされる藩ですね。
In other words, they were allies to the Aizu as well as to troops loyal to the former shogunate. Unfortunately, it was only a matter of time before the Aizu men on the front line fell to the Imperial Army.
でも、合図がいつ落ちるかわからないこの状況でかよ。
だからこそだろう。分散したまま兵力を削られるよりは、一発逆転にかける方が勝ち目もある。大鳥さんも随分と派手なことを思いついたもんだな。
Excitement glittered in Hijikata's eyes. Apparently, he approved of Otori's plan. I hadn't seen Hijikata this excited in a while, and the others in the room picked up on his energy.
旧幕府海軍もすでに江戸を脱走し、海路にて北上しているとのことです。
では、私が先行して仙台に向かいましょう。本隊が到着するまでに地盤を固めておきますよ。
Are you now, Sannan? Okay. If you say so.
You? True, someone had to go first, at the very least to establish a base for the Shinsengumi. We'd also likely need to pay our respects to the leaders of the Northern Alliance. It just seems a little dangerous to have our representative be someone from the Fury Corps.
仙台は私のふるさとですからつてがあります。内情を探るにしても私が適任でしょう。
Yeah, but Sannan, you're like several years dead as far as the entire world knows. What the fuck, man?
少々気になることもありますしね。
Bothering you? He nodded and smiled, but it seemed that was all he'd tell me. What could be bothering him? I had a very bad feeling.
Ah! Appropriate reasons for headphones, Jolie.
けど三男さん死んだことになってるだろ。今さら出て行っても混乱を招くんじゃねえか。
それくらいどうとでもごまかせますよ。
Also, like, Sannan's voice is quite nice as well. He treads the line between spooky and alluring.
そう言われますと、やはり三男さんが適任かもしれませんな。
羅刹は先行部隊には向かねえよ。昼間に移動できねえんだからな。
Speak for yourself, Hijikata.
昼に活動するのは手間ですが、できないわけではありません。今は正念場ですからね。 多少の無理なら喜んでさせていただきますよ。
I didn't doubt his ability to do what he said, but I did question the validity of his motives. I had a very bad feeling. Hijikata and Sannan stared at one another, silent.
その伝令にはまだ続きがありまして、大鳥さんは伝習隊を率いてボナリ峠に向かい、新政府軍の進軍を食い止めるつもりのようです。味方の兵を仙台に移動するため猶予を作るおつもりなのでしょうが。
ボナリ峠って今の最前線だよな。大鳥って人の考えもわからなくはねえけど、時間稼ぎなんて言うほど簡単じゃねえだろう。
確かに今の新政府軍との戦力差を考えると。
大鳥さんたちに生還してもらうためにはボナリ峠に援軍を出す必要があるな。
その案には賛成できません。我々が勝利をつかむためには無傷のまま仙台へたどり着く必要があります。
Oh boy, let's just argue about tactics, shall we, boys?
それはつまり会津藩、今まで我々を庇護してくださった会津公を見捨てるということですか。
ここで共倒れになってしまっては元も子もありませんよ。
I was told that the Shinsengumi owed much of their survival and their successes to the Aizu domain. However, for Sannan to be victorious in Sendai, then the Shinsengumi would have to leave. All of us. It was not an easy decision to make. Hijikata was visibly disturbed at having to decide. However, it was Saito who shot a glance at everyone, seemingly having made up his mind on the matter.
俺が会津に残ります。
What?
What?
上洛したばかりの頃、何のつてもなかった我々を預かり、後ろ盾となってくださったのは会津藩です。会津公の庇護なくして今の新選組はありませんでした。ですから俺は最後までここで戦いたい。
Saito, no.
ボナリ峠には俺が向かいます。土方さんたちはこのまま仙台へ向かってください。
斎藤、お前。
では私も出立の準備を整えましょう。善は急げと言いますからね。
Sonnan's like, right, cool. All right, I'm gonna go. Bye.
Before giving Hijikata a chance to reply, he stood and left the room. Heisuke didn't seem particularly happy about how things had turned out, but after a moment of furious thought, he stood up as well.
俺も三男さんと一緒に行く。あの人から目を離すのは不安だしな。
Attaboy.
ああ、そうしてくれると助かる。
Be careful, Heisuke.
大丈夫、任せとけって。
He gave me a smile and wink, and then dashed out the door after Sannan.
島田、伝令の準備をしておいてくれ。大鳥さんと会津藩に新選組の決定を伝えろ。
Yeah, Heisuke, the most exhausted babysitter. He's like, right, okay, I need to go and make sure Sannan doesn't go on a blood crawl.
Hi, Tristan.
Yeah, exactly, Heisuke. Because it's you, be careful. Please.
わかりました。早急に用意を整えます。
He bowed and left. Saito turned once again to face Hijikata. Whether or not he'd been waiting until the room emptied to do so, I wasn't sure.
土方さんは何としてでも生き残ってください。
No.
どうした、やぶから棒に。
新選組は近藤さんや土方さんが信じて築き上げてきた武士の道そのものです。
Even when they were slandered and despised by the people of Kyoto, or when the shogunate began to capitulate to the imperial army. They had never bent, never compromised what they stood for.
新選組が掲げる誠の旗は今や侍たちの拠り所になっています。新選組は武士を導く者、義の道しるべです。
In every warrior's soul was honor, dedication, and loyalty. In the Shinsengumi, those values were made flesh. There could be no retreat. Saito and Hijikata looked at one another silently.
俺は新選組を作り上げた土方さんにこそ道しるべを担い続ける義務があると考えています。
簡単に言ってくれるじゃねえか。
Then, Hijikata gave his usual thin-lipped smile and spoke in a very peaceful manner.
お前に約束してやるよ。俺は新選組の行く末を見届ける。
Also, I'm just saying, I ship this. You know, Chizuru not being here and all, I would ship it.
Saito bowed.
ありがとうございます。
He looked up and Saito eventually turned silently towards me.
土方さんを頼む。
So few words, but with such great emotion behind them. Right. We'll be fine. I nodded and consulted the walkthrough, which I hadn't pulled up yet.
Or, you know, I'm going to pull it up and then consult the walkthrough is actually how that works. It's fine. Don't worry about it.
After all, I don't think Hijikata could die even if someone killed him. Saito's eyes widened in surprise. I've seen him on the verge of death lots of times, but he always pulls through. Don't worry about him. He'll fight with the Shinsengumi forever. So, I set my jaw and looked Saito straight in the eye. Please don't die, Saito. The battle at Bonari Pass was sure to be an intense one. Many men would lose their lives. However, there is a tremendous difference between going into battle prepared to die and going into battle expecting to die.
殺しても死なねえとは随分な言い草じゃねえか。俺の心配をしてる暇があるなら、お前ももう少し自分のことを心配しろ。
He said it as a joke, but there was no mistaking the underlying sincerity. He went along with my statement after knowing my intentions.
俺も簡単には死ねません。掲げた新選組の名にかけて。
He turned his eyes to me. He gave me a peaceful gaze.
気遣いに感謝を。
Aww. That was gross. I love it.
I accompanied Hijikata to Sendai. Hijikata was still gravely concerned about Saito. So Hijikata ensured that Shimada would accompany Saito and Aizu. Perhaps the two of them would be able to overcome dangers that Saito would have been unable to alone. Leaving Saito and Shimada turned out to be much more difficult than I had imagined. I spent so much time with them. All I could do was pray that they would survive, and that we would meet again someday.
On we go. He is a good sword boy.
As September began, the cold autumn wind blew down on the main body of the Shinsengumi as they arrived in Sendai. The trip had been easy enough, but upon our arrival we encountered a new problem. Sannan and the Fury Corps were nowhere to be found. Heisuke too was unheard from. We were generally concerned, but it became stronger after we arrived at Sendai. From the villagers in Sendai, we heard disturbing rumors that murder had been on the rise in recent days. We scarcely wanted to think about it, but it hardly seemed like it could be a coincidence.
Ruh-roh. I have several concerns.
Upon reaching Sendai Castle, we were greeted by a man in Western garb. As soon as he laid eyes on Hijikata, his face split in a grin.
おお、久しぶりじゃねえか、土方君。元気にしてたかい？
ええ、榎本さんも変わりない様子で何よりです。
Later on, I learned this man was Takeaki Enomoto. He was the Shogunate Navy's second in command. When Edo had surrendered to the Imperial Army without a fight, he had taken his flagship Kaiyomaru, captured 8 more battleships, and left.
Damn, dude. That's kind of impressive. He's like, fuck you, I'm taking these, bye. Turns out the mustache man is a bit of a badass.
When we left Osaka Castle for Edo, it was his suggestion to perform the funeral by the sea on behalf of Yamazaki. He'd taken his new fleet to Sendai and arrived before we had.
近藤さんの件はもう聞いたか？
Oh, Leia. Hijikata only nodded.
力になれなくてすまなかったな。惜しい人を亡くしたもんだぜ。
近藤さんも喜んでると思います。榎本さんほどの方にそう言ってもらえるなんて。あの人のためにも今後のことを考えましょう。
Oh.
仙台の状況がどうなってるのか教えてもらえますか？
そうだな。先に言っとくが、あんまり愉快な知らせじゃねえかもしれねえぜ。
Does that mean?
まず、仙台城の様子がおかしい。やっこさんたちの考えがさっぱり読めねえ。正式に会談を申し込んでも、是非の返答すらよこさねえ。さらに、仙台藩にはおかしな部隊がある。つう話まで広まり始めてるところだ。
Suspicious. How?
ああ。仙台では辻斬りが横行しててな。その犯人たちが城に戻るところを見た。なんて噂がまことしやかにささやかれてる。
That seems bad.
Suspicious men running amok in Sendai, possibly murdering civilians. Sannan and the Fury Corps unreachable. It wasn't difficult to put 2 and 2 together. Hijikata and I looked at one another. There was no doubt that we were thinking the same thing.
何にせよ、このままじゃ動きようがねえ。せめて辻斬りの犯人をとっ捕まえて治安維持に努めたいところだが。
榎本さん、その辻斬りの件、 俺に預けてもらえねえか。
Inamoto opened his mouth to protest, but something in Hijikata's gaze made him change his mind, and he nodded.
よし。この件は君に任せよう。詳しい事情は聞かねえことにしとくよ。
I bowed politely and he smiled and walked away.
I wonder if they meant he bowed politely, but whatever.
Inamoto was a kind, candid man. I had a feeling he was well liked by his men, and he seemed to get along well with Hijikata. I confess I felt rather relieved. But not entirely, however. The dark cloud above our heads had merely lightened, not lifted. Do you think Sannan is the one killing people?
今の段階じゃ何とも言えねえな。だが確実に言えるのは、もしあの人が辻斬りの首謀者なら、三男さんを切るしかねえってことだけだ。
Oof.
Hijikata.
羅刹の寿命について知ったとき、三男さんはかなり動揺してたからな。自暴自棄になっても不思議じゃねえ。
True. It certainly seemed likely that Sannan was responsible for the murders. But all I could do in my position was hope beyond reasonable doubt that it wasn't true. If the truth turned out to be different, then I didn't doubt Hijikata would kill him without hesitation. Whether he wanted to or not.
今の仙台は微妙な状況に置かれてる。俺たちも迂闊な行動はできねえ。お前も気を抜くんじゃねえぞ。いいな。
Clear. There were plenty of questions I wanted to ask him, but he had other things on his mind. It wasn't the time. The following day, Hijikata began his investigation. I tried to convince him that his body needed rest, not the stress of a murder investigation. However, I might as well have tried to lift a horse. That was how I found myself lounging around our rooms while Hijikata went off on rounds with the rest of the soldiers. I was so engaged when an unexpected visitor arrived. Heisuke? I was clearly thrown off by my sudden guest. Where were you all this time? We couldn't get a hold of you. We were all so worried. He didn't answer my questions, but rather he jumped straight to the chase.
千鶴、土方さんがどこにいるか知らねえか。
He's off doing rounds at the castle.
そっか。じゃあ伝言頼めるか。俺たちが仙台に着いてからのことを全部話すから、土方さんに伝えてくれ。
All right. I gulped, waiting for him to open up.
仙台藩が俺たちに協力してくれなくてさ。もしかしたら新政府軍の方から圧力をかけられてるんじゃねえかって三男さんが言ってて、仙台藩の内情を探ってるうちに高堂さんがここに来てることを突き止めたんだ。
What? My father had been forced to do research on the Furies by the rebels before the war broke out. Or at least that's what we thought. But now he was here? In Sendai?
しかも高堂さんは新政府の羅刹隊を率いてるみたいでさ。放っておくわけにはいかねえから敵方の動きを監視してたんだけど。
And?
見ちまったんだ俺。三男さんが高堂さんと密会してるところ。
I don't think he did. We didn't run into him in Kyoto Winds for the Hijikata route. The turning point at Toba Fushimi where you normally might run into him, it was just the Kazuma showdown, yeah. Hijikata's route has been blessedly Kodo free up until this moment, I think.
What? Heisuke explained that Sannan had told him they'd be more likely to get spotted if they moved together, and went off on his own. That was pretty peculiar on its own, but sometime after they'd split up, Heisuke witnessed Sannan meeting with my father.
俺、もうわからねえよ。三男さんが何を考えてるのか。
I mean, maybe he was just performing some espionage to get information from Kodo?
それなら俺に嘘を言う必要はねえはずだろ。それに、一度や二度じゃねえんだよ。何度もコ堂さんと会ってやりとりしてるみたいでさ。
The movie basically did the Hijikata route and spliced in things from other routes, just to make sure that all the boys got like their spotlight moments. So yes, for those of us here who have seen the movie, which I think is pretty much most of us, it's gonna do that. Or at least more or less do that.
土方さんに連絡を入れようともしねえし、俺どうしたらいいのかわからなくなって。土方さんが仙台に着いたって聞いたから、三男さんの目を盗んで抜け出してきたんだ。
Bless you, Heisuke, you good, good boy.
That must have been hard on you. I'd just let my eyes fall to the floor. I wasn't sure what else to say. Then I heard a lot of commotion toward the entrance. A few moments later, the sliding door was kicked open and several strange men suddenly leapt into the room.
なんだこいつら。まさか。
Fuck, he got followed.
Without saying a word, the men had their gleaming swords at the ready and they lunged for Heisuke.
おった。
He dodged the attack easily, drawing his own sword as he moved. With a snarl, Heisuke struck out at one of the men before he had a chance to recover.
Fuck!
The spot where Heisuke had struck him was beginning to heal itself immediately. Furies?
千鶴、俺の後ろに隠れろ。
But then, just as I turned,
逃げる必要などないとも。
Why? Why? Ew. We were doing so well. I know, I think we all just went, gross.
I felt my eyelids flutter incredulously after hearing the man's voice. That voice was familiar. Very familiar. Father? What could be going on? Why is Father here?
So, remember, for our context, in this route, this is the first time we've seen Kodo in literal years. We could not find any trace of him. So, like, this is kind of a big reveal.
Heisuke continued to duel with the Furies as I stood there in confusion.
くそ、なんだよこいつら。昼間だってのにどうしてこんなに動けるんだ。
Although he was clearly their superior in regards to swordsmanship, He was outnumbered, and the daylight had weakened him. He was slow, and his strikes were unsure.
Fuck!
What is going on here? Father maintained his cool air of composure, and he muttered under his breath while observing the events.
素晴らしいだろう。彼らは日の光を克服した羅刹たちだよ。
Wait, Father, these furies are your doing?
その通りだよ、千鶴。もしかすると誰かから聞かされているかもしれんが、私はずっと新政府軍にとらわれ、落ち水の研究を続けていたんだ。
Were you now?
Father, please, stop them! At this rate, Heisuke will... His eyes widened as if he'd only just remembered, and he looked over to Heisuke with a smile.
彼には礼を言っておかねばなるまいな。彼のおかげでお前の居場所が分かったのだから。
Oh man, fuck you, dude.
俺を尾行してきたのか。
Heisuke spat out through gritted teeth. My father ignored him and turned back to me. His voice was soft.
今日はお前を迎えに来たのだよ。これでようやく我々の一族を再興できる。
Yeah, how dare you use the goodest boy to fucking track us down and come in with like a dozen of your stupid furies, you bastard.
Glenn? You mean the Yukimura?
この羅刹たちがいれば一族の栄華を取り戻すなど簡単なことだ。
You.
この成果を見れば新政府も我々を軽く扱うことなどできまい。我々を見捨てた古い鬼の一族を一掃することだって夢ではないはずだよ。
Okay.
You're planning to use furies to restore the Yukimura lineage to power?
そうとも。これは皆お前のためなんだよ。
Ew.
I stood stunned for a moment. His voice evoked the same tone he used to speak to me with when I was a child. I shook my head. I can't go with you, Father. There is no glory in bloodshed. The smile faded from Father's eyes. Instead, he walked closer. I tried to back away, but there were furies blocking my way.
お前は新選組に長くいすぎたか。人間どもに毒されてしまっているようだな。
Fuck you.
What? No! I hadn't changed. It was Father who did.
さっとけよお前ら！
Despite being out of breath, Heisuke managed to swipe at the Furies with his sword, giving himself space. However, no matter how many strikes he could inflict, their wounds were healed immediately. More and more Furies arrived to the scene, and before we knew it, we were completely surrounded.
Where the hell is everybody else?
Father.
もう少し腰を据えてじっくり話せばお前も分かってくれるだろう。
He then drove his fist forcefully into my stomach.
Ow? What the fuck? What the fuck?
Stars leapt up before my eyes. The world went dim, and I slipped into unconsciousness.
Damn.
When I awoke, I was in a room I didn't recognize. Where am I? I was in a daze as I muttered to myself.
ここは仙台城ですよ。
Help. Help. Not into this, not about this, don't like this. Once again, Sannan always sounds real spooky. You can't turn the spooky off.
I heard a familiar voice coming from behind and I shot up. Don't tell me it's... Sannan? Next to him was my father, whom I could only assume had carried me to this location. What's going on? Why are you two together?
行動さんとは羅刹の研究を行うため協力関係を結んだのですよ。
Great.
Then you're working with the Imperial Army now? You've betrayed the Shinsengumi.
さあ、それはどうでしょうね。
He gave me a teasing smile. Explaining himself never seemed to interest him.
千鶴、体は大丈夫か？すまなかったね。加減はしたつもりだったんだが。
Rough treatment, you fucking punched us, you asshole.
His tone was intimate and caring, a callback to the father I used to know, and I felt myself wavering. I couldn't under any circumstances let my guard down.
逃げようとは思わない方がいいですよ。私たちも手荒な真似はしたくありませんから。
Gulp.
Okay. So long as Sannan and my father were in the room, escape was hopeless.
それにしても彼女を連れてきたのは早計でしたね。土方君は勘がいいですから、彼女がいなくなったことで我々の計略を察してしまったかもしれない。
娘の居場所を知りたいなら東堂君を尾行しろと言ったのは君だろう。
東堂君を泳がせろとは言いましたが、彼女を連れ去れとは言っていませんよ。まあ何にせよ済んでしまったことです。過去を悔いるより今後の策を練るべきでしょうね。
それならば心配いらんとも。羅刹隊が東堂君を始末した頃合いだ。そろそろ仙台城まで戻ってくるだろう。
Oh no. What did they do to Heisuke?
気の毒だが、もう生きてはおるまい。あの数の羅刹に囲まれたのだからな。
Hey, Dad. Hey, can we claw your face off?
My whole body shook. No way Heisuke could have died. I wanted so badly to believe it, but the furies my father had brought didn't seem to have any trouble in the sunlight. Heisuke, on the other hand, had looked pale and weakened.
誰が死んじまったって？勝手に決めつけんのはやめてくれねえか？
Heisuke? All of a sudden, Heisuke burst into the room. He wasn't alone either, because behind him was...
無事か、雪村。
Fuck yeah. Our boy and our husband.
He spared me a quick, concerned glance. Then his eyes flicked back to Sannan and Kodo. I'm fine. I nodded vigorously, and Hijikata let out a short snort of laughter.
なぜお前たちがここに？まさか改良を重ねた私の羅刹隊が ただの羅刹に破られたというのか。
改良型だかなんだか知らねえがな。俺たちを仕留めてえならあの10倍でも足りねえくらいだよ。
Hijikata's like, yeah, if you say so.
そろそろ来る頃だと思っていましたよ。他の大使は連れてこなかったんですね。まあ君ならそうすると思っていましたが、2人だけで敵地に乗り込むなど無謀だとは思いませんでしたか。
状況を説明してもらおうか。なぜ俺たちへの連絡を絶った？
仙台に君が求めるものはありません。奥羽越列藩同盟は戦争の回避を目論んでいます。
What? The Sendai domain. The leader of the alliance was trying to avoid the war. It hit almost like a physical blow.
会津での度重なる敗北を伝えられ、腰が引けてきたようですね。
私は新政府軍より密命を受けて仙台に来た。羅刹隊を率いて仙台城を落とし、同盟を完全に崩壊させろとの指示だ。しかしそれは私の本意ではない。新政府側の考えにはどうしても同意できん。
So Sendai were already preparing to retreat, which meant there was no need to attack Sendai Castle. All they needed was some pressure.
新政府軍に不満を持っていた高道さんと手を結び、私たちはこうして仙台を掌握するに至りました。
Right? Yeah, like Kodo has any sort of moral ground to stand on, period.
In return for not planning a direct strike on the castle, Kodo was given tacit consent to remain behind in the domain. This, of course, gave him time to develop more furies. Father, you're working with the shogunate's old allies?
私はお前の味方だよ、千鶴。人間たちの争いに手を貸すつもりはない。我ら一族を滅ぼした人間や我々を見捨てた古き鬼どもに復讐しよう。
No.
私たちの手で鬼の王国を作り上げる。いや、我々こそが新たな鬼の一族となるのだよ。
No?
Father. I remember Sen describing our history to me. The village of Yukimoto was destroyed by humans. If that were true, then I would understand why Father would resent humans, but even then, I couldn't get myself to agree with Father.
Oh boy.
Just then, the sound of footsteps loudly entered our ears, followed by shadows bringing sight to the sound.
彼らも侵入者に気づいたようですね。
こいつらは新選組の。
そうです。この城には新政府軍の羅刹だけではなく、我々新選組の羅刹隊も滞在させていました。
Oh dear.
Not only would we have to confront our own furies, now we had to deal with Father's far more dangerous, much improved furies as well. They had us surrounded.
この国に存在する羅刹が今ここに集結しているのですよ。西洋式の軍備を持つ新政府軍だろうと確実に倒せるだけの最終兵器になります。
Red eyes surrounded us. But in their eyes I saw only madness, the mindless hunger and lust for blood of an animal starved too long. There was no humanity there.
さあ、手を貸しておくれ、千鶴。我々の旗頭にはお前が必要なのだよ。
What the fuck, Kodo? What the fuck, though?
この羅刹たちを使い、雪村一族を再興しよう。
Father, I didn't care about restoring the Yukimura clan. I didn't want to create more furies so that blood could drive them mad. I didn't want to see more suffering. Father, you're wrong. His eyes went wide. Building a kingdom on the corpses of others isn't right. I can't agree to it. Human or demon, every life is precious.
He really is. Like, he has an end goal, but he really doesn't fucking know how to get there ever.
Just because our home village was destroyed doesn't mean we could oppress humans.
新選組に手を貸してもいいと行動さんはおっしゃってくれています。どうです土方君。この羅刹たちを率いて共に新政府軍と戦うつもりはありませんか。
俺の答えは花から決まってるさ。
Hijikata was opposed to the Furies from the beginning. He never approved of Sanan's research into them after my father's disappearance. I doubted he'd changed his mind about them.
交渉決裂ですか。では仕方ありませんね。
Sannan sighed. He drew his sword slowly from its scabbard. Sannan? Did he mean to attack his own friend? I stiffened, but Hijikata didn't move toward his own blade. He remained still, coolly contemplating Sannan. Almost as if someone had dumped paint on it, Sannan's hair slowly changed to white. He raised his sword. A single cut and the Fury was dead.
戦うことしかできない私たち羅刹に戦いの場も残されていないというのなら、
Well,
ここで終わりにしてあげるのがせめてもの情けというものでしょう。
The room fell silent. Then it exploded in noise. The enraged battle cries of the Furies, the click and rattle of swords being drawn.
平助、
わかってるって。
Heisuke dropped into a fighting stance and slipped his hand around the hilt of his sword.
三男さん、ちょっとカッコつけすぎだぜ。なんで俺らに言ってくれなかったんだよ。
まあ月並みな言葉ですが、敵を騙すにはまず味方からと。
that's our Sannan.
Their faces split into grins as their swords whistled and sparked, fury after fury falling before them.
それに新選組でこういった役目を引き受けるのは常に私でしたからね。
Sannan knows exactly what the fuck he's about and he loves it. Boop.
Hijikata responded with a bark of wry laughter and drew his own sword in a flash of silver light as his hair turned white as well. The men got into their stances and faced the Furies as Furies themselves.
何言ってやがる。昔から後始末は俺の役目って決まってるだろうが。
Well.
As their three swords spun and hissed through the air, blood gushed and splattered, painting the walls of Sendai Castle a deep red. They were like 3 gods of death.
Exactly. Sanan's like, I have to make this dramatic. Let's adjust the sound a bit. Let's scoot that down. There we go. Sword stuff is always very loud.
Wave after wave conquered, they'd drown their foes in a sea of blood. I noticed that my mouth had gone dry and my hands had begun to shake. I couldn't move. I saw Father sitting down at the corner. He seemed deflated.
Damn right.
鬼の王国で羅刹のさらなる研究を進めよう。三男君、君は確かにそう言ったはずだ。
Because you suck.
Sannan looked over at him, sword in hand, spattered with blood.
先が見えてしまったんですよ。私は羅刹を生かす道を探っていました。先が短いと知ってからは特に焦りましたとも。研究を推し進めるため、時には自らの手も汚しましたが。
He frowned, disappointed in himself. Every suspicious thing he had done had been in service of a single goal, saving his fellow Furies.
羅刹には未来がありません。コードさんも分かっているでしょう。たとえ日の光の下で動けるようになっても、力を使えば寿命は削られ、血に狂う衝動も消えてはくれない。
Sannan had confirmed the truth we'd all suspected. There was no way to save the Furies.
私たちは時代のあだ花なんですよ。羅刹は生み出されてはならないものでした。
Oh.
もう終わりにしましょう。
Sannan's true intentions had left me surprised, as had his admission that the Furies were a failure. Was he right? Could they never be saved? Had all hope been lost? I let my mind drift for just a moment, and then I saw a shadow move out of the corner of my eye. Suddenly there was a Fury only feet from me, his eyes red and mad with bloodlust. I reached for my sword. I was a little too late. Before my hand had even touched the hilt of my sword, I saw the Fury's blade sweeping towards me. Huh? There was blood, but it wasn't mine. No cuts on my body. Someone had protected me. It was Father. Father? I reached for him as he fell. The Fury pulled back for another swing, one that would likely be the end of the both of us. Then it froze, gurgled oddly, and slid neatly in half, a blade glistening in the center.
何よそ見してやがるんだ。てめえらの相手は俺たちだろ。
Yeah, if he wasn't so fucking awful everywhere else in the game. I think this route and Soji's route are the only moments really where Kodo sort of redeems himself just in time to die. And I say redeems with like huge air quotes.
He shifted his eyes up to my father's wound, and I saw his face twitch. Immediately he moved closer and turned his back to us, sword held at the ready.
千鶴、大丈夫か。どこも怪我はしていないか。
There was blood splattered across his chest. It was an effort for him to speak. The wound he'd taken was undoubtedly a fatal one. I wanted to scream, but I tried to force a smile to my face. Yes, I'm fine. I'm not hurt at all. Despite my best efforts, my voice shook and cracked. He looked so peaceful.
羅刹の研究は失敗なのだよ。未来がないことぐらい本当は私も分かっていた。
Father.
どうしても諦められなかったんだ。一族を、お前の家を復興させたかった。
Ever since I'd been young, my father had always tried to do what was best for me. Even now, in his own way, he was still trying.
He does. I mean, most of the Oni do, but I don't think it's as strong, and he probably took a cut straight to the heart, basically. Much like the Furies, if you cut an Oni's head off or you stab them straight through the heart, they're gonna die. It's most other wounds that they can ultimately heal from.
私は羅刹と共に消えゆく運命なのだろう。大きな罪を生み出したのだからね。
His voice was getting weaker.
これでよかったんだよ。だから泣かないでくれ、千鶴。
I said nothing. I only nodded. Were I to open my mouth and speak, then the tears would never stop. I gritted my teeth. He gave me one last smile, sighed a calm breath, and he was gone. After what seemed like an eternity, I looked up. The battle was over.
Oh, damn. Well, boys, you look messy.
The furies that came to fruition by the Shinsengumi and my father. Except for Heisuke, Sannan, and Hijikata, not a single fury was left alive.
少し惜しかった気もしますね。これだけの数なら利用価値もあったでしょうに。新選組は多大な兵力を失ってしまいましたね。
Oh, sorry, Sannan. Sannan's mouth tightened in concern, but Hijikata replied with a smile.
鼻から負けるつもりで戦うやつはいねえよ。
土方さんは負けず嫌いだからな。
Heisuke snorted with laughter, then coughed to cover it up. It was true. The Shinsengumi lost a lot of furies, but their unity had grown stronger. That was something, at least. Or so I wanted to think.
Oh boy, get ready, friends. It's about to get real sad in here.
A sudden burst of pain wiped the grin from Heisuke's face. Sannan, too, had doubled over in agony. Was it the bloodlust?
限界が来たようですね。
His voice was oddly calm, almost distant. Limit? Hamagiri's words suddenly flashed through my memory. The Fury's power isn't a gift from the gods. You're only just borrowing your life that you would spend decades on. Heisuke saw my eyes go wide and gave me an awkward sort of laugh. He was right. They'd been in more battles as Furies than anyone else, and all of the strength and healing they'd enjoyed ate away at their futures until there was nothing left. Hijikata whispered. Sannan smiled, and then gave a slow nod.
自分の体ですからね。
His legs suddenly shook violently and they fell to the floor.
Thanks, I hate it. Hello, Mer. Thank you for the resub. You've arrived just in time to watch two of our good boys die.
Hijikata dropped to his knees and took both of their hands in his own.
覚えていますか、土方君。まだ司令官にいた頃、幾度となく夜を徹して話し合ったことを。
近藤さんはこんな小さな道場の道場主で終わる器じゃねえ。世が世なら武将にも大名にもなってた人だってな。
まさか我々より先に近藤さんが行ってしまうとは思いませんでしたがね。君とは反目することもありましたが、君なしで新選組を作り上げることはできませんでした。
Sannan's voice was growing quiet.
そりゃあんたも同じだろう。
Hijikata responded, and I could tell the words were difficult to draw.
ことあるごとに芹沢さんに食ってかかってた俺をいさめてくれたのはあんたじゃねえか。
Hijikata was doing his best to act tough, so that Heisuke and Sannan wouldn't worry. But it wasn't easy for him.
俺らは先に行くけどさ、土方さんはもう少しのんびりしててもいいぜ。新選組ができてからろくに休んだこともなかっただろう。
Heisuke said in a bright and kind tone. Hijikata just nodded.
まあ無理かもしれねえけどな。土方さんって短気だし。
生意気なこと言ってんじゃねえよ。お前に心配されるほど落ちぶれちゃいね
え。Heisuke's face relaxed as Hijikata snarled back at him. Even in this moment, Heisuke was tender and kind for the benefit of Hijikata.
君の進む道は北にあります。
Sannan could barely speak now.
行動さんは落ち水の効果を薄めるとき、陸奥の水を使ったのだと聞きました。
Then perhaps there was still hope. Maybe, just maybe there's a chance something up north could repair the curse of the Fury to these men. Sannan's last words were the faint muster of hope for the fate of the Furies.
土方さんは見失うなよ。生き急いだっていいことねえからな。
His voice had grown rough and raspy. I saw Hijikata's knuckles whiten as they tightened, but with a sound like sand pouring over a stone.
Wow.
Their hands crumbled into ash. In moments, they were no more. Hijikata.
I hate this the most.
He didn't answer. He only stared, silent, at the twin piles of ash that sat where his friends were only moments before. I felt somehow that he was crying. There were no tears in his eyes, of course, but even so, somehow he was crying. I didn't know how long we sat there before he stood up. The room that included us was devastatingly quiet.
帰るぞ。
Okay. His voice was curt and clipped, but when he turned to look at me, his eyes went suddenly wide.
泣くんじゃねえよ。
I nodded and tried to stop, but it was no good. The tears wouldn't stop no matter how much I'd wiped. In one day, in 1 hour, I'd been forced to say goodbye to Heisuke, to Sannan, and the father I hadn't seen for over a year.
Hello, Obi-Wan. You came at the worst time. Good to see you. So that was great. How about we take our break now? Holy shit. Go, hydrate and dry your eyes and hug something. Yeah, like, go hug stuff, or go tell someone in your life you love them, because goddamn. I'll, see you all in about 10 minutes. And we'll see who the hell else we lose, I guess. How are we doing, friends? Gosh, that was a lot to have happen before we even got to our break. Wow. This route actually goes pretty hard, huh? Yep. I knew it was coming and it still gets me. It's this route just wants to continually punch Hijikata directly in the heart the whole fucking time. I actually do think like in the movie, obviously that whole like Sanan doing the heel face turn ×2 happens, but it happens a little differently. And losing like Heisuke and Sandan also happens, but it happens a little differently. And I think this kind of has a lot more weight and hurts a bit more than it did in the movie, because it like the movie didn't really have time to sit with it the way we do here. It was kind of like, oh shit, Sanan wasn't actually a bad guy and he was doing a scheme. Oh dang, he's on our side. Cool, we do a fight. Oh no, he dead. And that was pretty much the end of it real fast. Like, I felt nothing about Kodo in particular, but we don't like Kodo, so it's fine. Poor Chizuru, though. That had to hurt. See, in the movie, we got the satisfaction of them sort of combining elements of Kazuma's route with elements of Hijikata's. Because in Kazuma's route, of course, Kazuma straight up murders Kodo more or less with permission from Chizuru. So they had that moment happen instead, which was great. Alrighty, friends. We ready to dive back in? Have we recovered just enough? Keep your tissues close by, I suppose. Oh, that sounds really nice, Jolie. Also, Hijikata is apparently just the, like, living embodiment of crying on the inside. Oof. This poor man.
The events of Sendai Castle resonated with me for a while, and after some time had passed, I found myself alone again, standing in front of Sendai Castle and eyeing its majestic shape. In the corner of my eye, I saw the autumn sky in the background, letting a soft breeze hit my cheeks.
たく、無駄に時間をかけやがって。
Hijikata emerged from the castle gates, and his worn expression indicated a worrisome tiredness. Hello, Hijikata. How was the meeting?
どうもこうもねえよ。榎本さんと一緒に何度も仙台藩のお偉いさんをつっついたんだが、新政府軍の戦意は旺盛だ。まだ打って出るべきではない。
What the fuck does that even mean? You cowards.
てな具合にのらりくらりとかわされちまった。東北の雄仙台藩とか偉そうに脱がしておきながら土壇場になって腰が引けるとはな。
What? Both the Shinsengumi and the Aizu domain were giving everything they could to continue the fight. If we couldn't rely on our allies in the northeast, then it seemed the outcome of the war could be grimmer than we would have hoped.
ひとまず宿に戻るか。今日は日差しが強くていけねえ。
Okay. A cloud of frustration seemed to follow us as we returned to our inn, most notably in Hijikata. Hang in there, Hijikata. We'll be at the inn soon enough. Hijikata's skin looked pale, and watching him in silent agony made my heart ache.
俺の心配してる場合じゃねえだろう。お前はどうなんだ?
Aw.
I'm fine. I mean, I'm pretty resilient.
何言ってやがんだ。俺に付き合って夜通し起きてやがるくせに。
Well, I'm a tough one. When you finally fall asleep, it gives me the peace of mind that I can rest easily too. Hijikata's lips curled, and he didn't seem satisfied with my answer. Instead, he just stared at me. He turned his head gradually towards the hues of red and orange covering the autumn sky in the distance. I followed his lead and I looked towards the sky. Huh? My vision suddenly blurred.
おい、どうした?
Hijikata was right next to me, and yet his voice sounded so distant. Before I knew it, my body collapsed to the floor.
おい、雪村! どうした? しっかりしろ!
Oops, did we get sick?
When I regained my consciousness, I discovered myself tucked snugly into a futon. Oh, this is...
目が覚めたみてえだな。ここがどこかわかるか?
Hijikata! Once I realized it was him, I snapped out of my daze. I'm sorry, I desperately wanted to apologize, but Hijikata was going to have none of it.
このバカ野郎が!
Oh, damn. We're getting yelled at.
具合が悪いんなら出歩いたりせず宿にいりゃよかったじゃねえか。
I'm so sorry. It felt like a stone dropped in the pit of my stomach as Hijikata scolded me, and I could only look down. Hijikata seemed flustered by his outburst, and he scratched his head before muttering under his breath.
お前を怒鳴りつけるのは筋違いってもんか。親父さんが亡くなった後も気を休める暇すらなかったからな。気を張って平気なふりをすんのも限界だったってことだろ。
Yeah, he's not real good at doing feelings, as we've noticed, but he's worried.
Well, I couldn't deny that I was upset about what happened with Father, but I wasn't the only one who lost someone. Hijikata did too. Not only did he lose Kondo, but both Sannan and Heisuke as well. Losing so many of his close friends and comrades surely was taking a devastating toll on Hijikata. One I'm sure no one would be comfortable admitting.
お前は今後仙台藩とのやり取りに同行する必要はねえ。ここで休んでろ。
What? No, I'm fine. Today was just a lot to handle, so please.
また出先でぶっ倒られたら俺が迷惑するんだよ。
I'm sorry. Hijikata's biting words overloaded me with guilt. I'll be careful. I won't let this become a problem again in the future. So please let me continue being with you.
どうしてだ？近藤さんや山崎、源さんに俺のことを頼まれてるからか。
Saito did too.
死んでいった奴らだって、てめえの身を犠牲にしてまで俺に尽くせとは言ってなかったはずだぜ。
Well, true. Hijikata had a point. But if he were to know the truth about why I would want to stay with him, I'd say...
Ho ho ho.
I want to be by your side, Hijikata.
どうしてだ？
He's like, yeah, why? That's not the most touching response, but it's a very Hijikata response.
What do you mean, why? I couldn't continue. I knew in my heart of hearts what the true answer was, but there's no way I could tell Hijikata my feelings. Suddenly, the hairs behind my neck stood, tingling me.
まあいいや。話したくねえんなら構わねえさ。
Ow! God damn it! That was so mean. He's like, well, fine, don't tell me. Meh.
Hijikata flashed his usual sense of detachment, and he muttered quietly to himself. Hijikata likewise seemed caught up in his own thoughts, and he muttered something shortly afterwards.
お前確か松本先生と親しかったよな。
Well, I wasn't close with him. My father was, though. However, Dr. Matsumoto did watch after me frequently.
そうか。あの先生はちゃんとした人だ。 人間として信頼できる。
Right. Why would he be bringing this up all of a sudden? I couldn't quite grasp the point Hijikata was trying to make.
もしこの地で何かあったらあの人を頼れ。会津仙台が新政府に下ったとしてもあの人のそばにいりゃ悪いようにはならねえはずだ。
What? But it's not a sure thing that they'll lose.
戦いってのは勝った時と負けた時両方に備えておくもんだぜ。
With that said, Hijikata turned to face the outside window, and he continued.
松本先生ももうすぐ仙台に来るはずだ。そし
He fell silent. After a while, he shook his head tenderly.
いや、なんでもね、独り言だ。
Hijikata, this sounds suspiciously like you're trying to ditch us forever. And I don't like it.
Huh? In the empty space of our conversation, I tried to sift through what Hijikata was trying to say. However, I couldn't understand any of it. All I could do was pray that this brief, peaceful reprieve would prolong itself, even for a bit. This was all we could do, really, in these dark times. Hijikata and Enomoto made another trip to speak with the Sendai officials the following day. Although they hoped their audience with the officials would be fruitful.
ありゃ、もうダメだな。仙台藩のお偉いさん方は完全に戦う気をなくしちまってる。
どうします？いっそ俺たちも一緒に新政府に降伏しちまいますか？
悪い冗談はやめてくれよ。いくら新しい時代だっつっても、勝ったやつが好き放題できるなんて道理が通っちゃいけねえ。日本をこれから西洋と肩を並べられる文明国にするつもりだってんなら、なおさらな。
I don't know what you're talking about, Mer. No idea.
とはいえ、東北諸藩が落ちるのも時間の問題でしょう。
今後どうするか考えがねえこともねえんだが、最終的な判断を下すのは大鳥君と合流できてからだな。
Yeah, we only ugly cry in this channel because it's a streaming channel. A
few days passed. I hear our forces are gathering in an area to the north of Sendai. Are you planning on heading to Ezo? Ezo was a large island north of Sendai, which was at least a day's boat ride across the sea. From some stories I had heard, I envisioned it as a place where blankets of snow covered the roofs of houses for more than half of the year.
どうなろうと、新選組は将軍公と幕府のために働く。それだけは揺るがねえさ。
The Shinsengumi shows others the way, right? I smiled brightly towards him, and Hijikata turned to face the sky with a hint of melancholy in his eyes.
おかしな話だよな。散々武士のまがいものとして扱われてきた俺たちが、今や道しるべだとよ。
I'm sure Kondo would be proud, watching over us wherever he is now.
だろうな。
I could almost recall Kondo's joyful grin. In this moment, I think Hijikata saw something similar wherever he was looking. Well, that's one more reason not to die, then. I was a burden on him, undoubtedly, but Hijikata had seen many of his friends lay down their lives for the Shinsengumi, and what it represented. Knowing what it had meant to them, he couldn't allow himself to die.
志を持ち続ける奴がいる限り、新選組は死なせられねえよな。
Ow.
That's right. The doubt that I'd seen in him weeks before was gone. He accepted his place at the head of the Shinsengumi. Seeing him so at peace made me feel the same.
俺が新選組を守らねえとな。
Yes, you do. He looked over at me, his gaze warm. I felt good. Better than I had felt in a long time. Just being next to him was enough to make me feel like everything was right with the world. A few more days of autumn came and went. The men we'd left in Aizu finally reached Sendai. Unfortunately, bad news came with them.
斉藤さんが戦死なさいました。
What? But history, though. Excuse me, I need to flip my entire desk.
「最後にあとは土方さんを頼れ」と。
Shimada's jaw was tight with emotion as he spoke. Ever since this war started, I don't know how many times I've seen this expression on a warrior's face. I bit my lip until it almost bled. It was a desperate attempt to keep tears from my eyes. It didn't seem fair to cry in front of him. Hijikata put his hand on Shimada's shoulders, and he gave some words of encouragement.
苦労をかけたな、島田。お前たちが生きててくれてよかった。
Shimada's eyes grew wide, and he looked overcome with emotion.
ありがとうございます。
Oh.
Heisuke and Sannan lost their lives in Sendai, and Saito lost his in Aizu. This meant Hijikata was the only fury left among the Shinsengumi.
今まで世話をかけたな。これからの戦いはより厳しいものになるだろう。
Oh boy, is this all the crew we've got left?
お前らはもう十分戦ってくれた。だから。
Shimada set his jaw and looked back at Hijikata.
この命はすでに新選組に預けています。我々はどこまでも土方さんについていきます。
Oh. Damn. You know, this route also has some really good lines.
俺もです。地の果てまでお供しますよ。
命なんてとっくに捨ててます。どこまでも一緒に行かせてください。
Oh. You know, I don't know that we ever really learn that much about Nomura, but I kind of want to, hearing this line.
お前だ。
我々は新選組として戦いたいんです。信じた義を果たすために生きたいんです。
If Kondo was alive, I'm sure he would have cried. The Shinsengumi was united in body and mind. I felt a great happiness welling up in me, and suddenly I couldn't hold it in any longer. Tears spilled forth.
このバカ野郎どもが。
He twisted his face into a sneer, but there was no hiding the warmth in his eyes as he looked out over the men. Every one of them respected him. They knew the coming battle would not be an easy one, but there was no doubt in their minds. Their place was with Hijikata and the Shinsengumi. The Shinsengumi was a potent symbol of what it meant to be a true samurai, whose devotion and passion were championed above all else.
Yep, you colossal dipshits, he said lovingly. It's like, you fucking dumbasses, I love you.
October came. The Sendai domain was moving closer and closer to submitting to the Imperial Army. Our presence here was growing more dangerous. Even Otori agreed that we should leave. Ultimately, it was decided that the Shinsengumi would head to Ezo with Enomoto's fleet. We left Sendai and headed into the forest. We'd almost arrived at the rendezvous when Hijikata suddenly stopped and turned to me.
雪村、お前を連れて行くわけにはいかねえ。ここに残れ。
Ah! No? No, nope, that's not how this works. Hijikata. Nope. No.
What? His words stopped me in my tracks. It was so sudden. But why? Where is this coming from?
お前は戦いから離れろ。もう俺たちに付き合う必要はねえだろう。
I mean, there isn't... There, no, yes, there is. We just... No. Just stop that.
No, there is!
近藤さんや源さん、山崎に頼まれたっつっても、その義理は十分果たしたはずだ。もし、お前がこの先戦いに巻き込まれて死んだりしたら、俺があの世で皆にどやされちまう。
You don't get to decide this, Hijikata. We're going with you.
そろそろ、お前も俺たちから解放されてもいい頃だろ
う。No! Now that my father had passed, I knew there wasn't something to justify staying with the Shinsengumi, but even so, my heart yearned to be with Hijikata.
安心しろ。風間は今後、お前じゃなくて俺を狙ってきやがるはずだ。
Do you remember why Kazuma was fighting with you in the first place, you dumbass?
No, that's not it! Once again, I found myself nearly yelling. I don't want to stay just because I think I need you to protect me from Kazuma. Hijikata sighed. He looked as if he were dealing with a fussy toddler.
聞き分けのねえことを言うんじゃねえ。俺じゃお前を幸せになんてできねえんだよ。
Oh, I think he knows. He's just choosing to completely ignore it, or has been all this time.
What? My eyes went wide. When I spoke, my voice shook. Oh, what makes me happy is... I don't need to be happy. I'm not asking for happiness. All I want to do is fight alongside the Shinsengumi. I want to follow the same path you do. I didn't care what my position might be, so long as I could stay at Hijikata's side. I never stuck beside Hijikata because of some ulterior motive, or because I sought my happiness as a sort of internal measure for purpose. Please, I'll do whatever you tell me to.
その気持ちはありがてえが、お前は幸せになるべきだと思うぜ。俺たちなんぞに付き合わずにな。
Hijikata. He wasn't just saying that to make me feel better. I could feel the sincerity behind his words. I was happy to know he cared, but it pained me just as much.
これは新選組副長としての命令だ。
He looked me in the eye, his voice flat and cold.
蝦夷地への同行は許さねえ。お前の存在は俺たちの邪魔になる。
I felt my heart skip a beat. Then the warmth in my body began to leave me. My hands trembled and wouldn't relent. As I felt my cheeks grow pale and cold from feeling, Hijikata stared back at me with the face of stone.
お前は女として生きろ。これ以上、俺たちに縛られるな。
Hearing that, all the power in my body had left me and I fell to the floor.
Oh. Ow. I don't like this. I don't. I mean, this is a beautiful CG, but I hate that this is happening.
Hijikata. Please wait. I wanted so badly to scream this to him. But I couldn't speak it. It felt like my hands, feet, and voice were no longer mine. I was powerless.
達者で暮らせ。以上だ。
No!
Wow.
The minute he turned his back on me, I knew it wasn't good. It became clear that he truly intended to leave me behind. But I couldn't even lift a finger.
Oh my god.
Hijikata was getting further and further away, and his footsteps rang heavily in my ears. It was him, the one I'd been running after ever since the Battle of Toba Fushimi. A man that up to now was working on chipping the distance between us, bit by bit. I don't want this! I squealed out loud, forcing my voice to be heard, but Hijikata walked as if he didn't hear me. Hijikata! Even when I called his name, he wouldn't stop. And eventually I couldn't see his back anymore. Hijikata.
God, this is definitely not great. Oh, poor Chizuru.
Even after there was not a soul around me, I remained on the floor in a defeated stupor. I couldn't get up. I felt like something inside me had crumbled. An immense feeling of despair overtook my heart. I've been chasing after Hijikata all this time, but he was someone who only moved forward. His life was lived by keeping his pain sealed away, but never once did he leave me behind. He gave me the chance to cling on to him. This is what kept us together. But now I understood that there were no more chances to gather myself, or run after him, or any other childish endeavor to bring us closer. This was it. He cut me off. He deemed me of no further use to him, and he severed the ties that burdened his duty. Tears began to stream down my face.
さ、雪村くん。
Hmm?
I heard a quiet voice behind me and turned to see whom it was.
Hey, Otori, what's up, man? Our baby gremlin appears.
Otori.
話は聞かせてもらったよ。
Otori and his men were marching with us to meet Enomoto's fleet. I'd heard that he'd been in some of the fiercest battles in Aizu, and they'd changed him. He seemed stronger now, like a samurai.
悪いとは思ったんだけど、声をかけるきっかけがつかめなくてね。
Otori, I hope you ship it, man. We need your help right now.
He coughed awkwardly, then handed me a small white piece of cloth. What is this?
ハンケチーフっていう西洋の手拭いだよ。君の涙を拭き取るのに使ってくれないかな。
Oh.
At first I hesitated. However, it was more embarrassing for me to stand in front of him covered in tears, so I took it. He waited until I had calmed down some before he began to speak again.
I know, it's kind of a shame that he gets involved so late in the overarching story, because he seems like he'd be a fun route too. He seems like a good boy.
君は土方くんのそばにいたいんだね。
Yes.
なら待っていてくれるかな。僕たちが蝦夷地を平定するまで。
What?
僕が君を蝦夷に呼んであげるよ。泣いている女の子は放っておけないからね。
What a good boy. Thank you, sir.
Otori.
礼は言わなくていいからね。君が蝦夷地に着いたら土方くんのそばで死ぬまで働いてもらうことになるんだから。
He's like, I'm above Hijikata in rank. I can do what I want. This boy here is effectively Hijikata's boss. Oh, you know he will.
I got my summons from Otori right after the Matsumai domain fell. The Matsumai domain, until then, governed the island of Ezo. If Hijikata and the rest of the loyalist forces were to operate in Ezo, then Matsumai was, by necessity, their first target. I crossed to the island just as Otori had instructed, booking passage on a Russian merchant ship.
Yeah, Yukimura-kun!
When I arrived at Hakodate, it was Otori who came to pick me up. Thank you so much for arranging all of this. I gave him a short bow. And I repeated what I heard in the boat. Congratulations on establishing the Republic of Ezo.
共和国なんて大げさな呼び名だけどね。
After conquering Matsumai, they wasted no time in establishing the country that had been proposed back in Sendai.
細かな人事を決める選挙も終わったし、ようやく君を呼び寄せることができるようになったよ。
Exactly. He's gonna be so mad, but he can't do anything about it. Otori outranks him.
Elections?
君は初めて聞く言葉かな。選挙っていうのはね。
Supposedly, an election was a political process used in America to elect leaders into their government. According to Otori, every person receives a ballot to vote, and the candidate, as Otori called them, with the most votes holds the country's political power.
Supposedly.
So, everyone has a say about who's in power. I'd never heard of such a thing before, but it seemed like a good idea.
共和国の総裁は榎本さんに決まったよ。皆を取りまとめられるのは彼しかいないしね。
Seems like a good idea. Hey, Twilight.
Otori had taken the post of army minister, while Hijikata was made his assistant army minister.
待っているだけの3ヶ月間はやっぱり長かったかな。
Yes. I nodded. Still, the fact that they'd already defeated the Matsumai domain and established their own government spoke well for the excellence of the former shogun's military.
Oh boy, have you missed, Somebody in chat catch him up, please. The death toll is high this stream.
We had faced so many hardships and personal losses, so this felt like a step forward, a glimmer of hope. To me, of course, these 3 months felt like years, and only now was the dust settling in my heart.
エゾに来てから土方君は少し変わったよ。
Different? How?
部下たちにはとても優しくなったけど、自室に閉じこもっていることが多い。そういう時は決まって物思いに沈んでいてね。そばに誰も寄せつけようとしない。
Hijikata, what are you doing?
I wasn't quite sure what to say. Otori seemed to sense it, and instead of continuing the conversation, he reached into his jacket to remove an envelope.
きっと彼には君が必要なんだよ。
Me? My heart skipped a beat.
この書状は僕からの辞令だよ。細かいことは土方君に渡せばわかるはずだから。
God, I love Otori. He's like, here you go. Just hand this to Hijikata. He is like the sweetest disposition, but he is such a fucking gremlin. It's beautiful.
Thank you. I took the letter from him and bowed. The year was coming to an end. I changed into the Western clothes I'd brought because I knew it would take time to get used to them, and I headed for Goryokaku. The main hall was full of people, all of them there to celebrate the establishment of their new government. But Hijikata wasn't among them. He was in his room, alone. I took a deep breath, then rapped my hand against the door several times in quick succession. Otori had called it knocking, and told me that it was customary to do it when opening a Western-style door to signal whoever was inside.
I think it's just because that's like how they're all dressing now. Since she's being given an official position on this like retinue, she gets to dress in a uniform as well.
After a few seconds of silence, a tired voice drifted out.
絶対に出席しねえって言っただろう。今は浮かれてる場合じゃねえんだ。
I knew that voice very well. I put my hand on the doorknob and turned. Excuse me. He turned toward the door, preparing a half-hearted tirade for whoever intruded on his solitude. When he saw me, the words froze in his throat. Chizuru Yukimura reporting is ordered. I've been assigned to serve as Assistant Army Minister Hijikata's page by Army Minister Otori. His mouth worked soundlessly for a moment, finally closing with a snap. He stared at me intently for several more seconds, then he frowned.
何かの間違いだろう。そんな連絡は受けてねえ。
Surprise, bitch!
I handed him the letter Otori had given me. I received these orders from Army Minister Otori earlier. He snatched the envelope from me with a scowl and tore it open. His eyes scanned the page rapidly, his frown deepening with each line. When he finished, he shot me a sharp look and thrusted the letter and its envelope back into my hands.
持って帰れ。こんな事例は認めねえ。
Cassie! Thank you for the resub. 11 months, almost a year. Holy shit. What a beautiful emote combo as well. Also, sorry, Hijikata, this may be a republic, but you don't get a vote on this one.
I understand. I nodded and took the letter from his outstretched hand. Then I tore it to pieces.
何してんだ、お前。
He looked shocked. I don't care if you won't approve these orders. I shouldn't have relied on them in the first place. I tried to force Hijikata to let me stay with Otori's orders. Now I saw how wrong that had been. I hadn't come to Ezo because I was ordered to. I'd accepted Otori's help and come to Ezo because I wanted to be with Hijikata. That was all that mattered. I came here because I wanted to. I want you to let me stay. Here. With you. I couldn't let orders be the reason. He had to make that choice.
父に部下を送り込む指揮官が女をはべらせててめえだけいい思いなんてしてられねえだろうが。
Is that why you left me? He fell silent and shifted, uncomfortable. Stop this! Before I realized it, I was yelling. Hijikata looked equally surprised. You always do this! You decide you can't do something, then you make up all the excuses you need to justify it. You say you're doing it for my feelings without even knowing my feelings. When he'd left me behind, Hijikata had said that he couldn't make me happy, that I should go live my life. But he was what made me happy, and I wanted to live my life with him. Now he was trying to push me away again, so that he could bear his burden alone. I couldn't let him do that. You take on so much, and you won't let anyone else help.
それが俺の役割なんだよ。俺に何とかできる問題なら、俺が苦労すれば済む話じゃねえか。
What about the people who have to watch you do this? I'd watched him torture himself this way for too long. Every hardship, every burden was his and his alone to suffer in solitude. And I hadn't been the only one. Inoue, Yamazaki, Kondo. They all had to watch him, and so had plenty of other people who cared about him. I can't let you do this to yourself. I want to be here for you. I want to help you. What else am I supposed to do? Hijikata suddenly became blurry, and I realized that there were tears filling my eyes. He fell silent. After several moments, he sighed and slumped.
参ったな。
I blinked. I had no idea what he was talking about.
江戸の女には逆らえねえんだよ。言うことを聞かなきゃいけねえ気がしてくる。
Here he goes with that Edo woman stuff.
Also, thank you, Twilight. His voice was gentle, and he looked up with a wry smile.
Apparently Hijikata's love language is yelling. Which goes to show how much he cares about people in general, I guess.
Then suddenly his arms were around me. It was so unexpected, but I let myself sink into his chest, speechless. He held me tightly. It was as if now that he finally had me, he didn't ever want to let go.
Oh, look at their nose, so cute. Ah.
He stopped, and I could sense him trying to organize his feelings. I got the impression he was confused. His arms tightened. I picked up on his scent and I breathed in deeply. Whatever distance had separated us in the past was long gone now. He sounded slightly bewildered, as if he couldn't believe what he was saying. He wasn't the only one. Am I able to be of any use to him? Was I able to alleviate even a smidge of his pain?
Oh, buddy.
With each word he spoke,
my throat died.
With each word he spoke, my heart swelled warmly in my chest. Each word descended like snowflakes, gently gathering onto the soft ground.
Oh my god. Well,
I could feel the warmth of his body touching every part of mine. I couldn't stop crying.
千鶴、新選組は今も武士の道しるべだと思うか。あいつらが惚れ込んだものを俺は引き継ぐことができてると思うか。
he sure did. He said Chizuru. He didn't say Yukimura. Break out the hype scale, y'all.
I nodded. The soul of the Shinsengumi that our friends believed in is alive in you. In fact, I think it's even stronger now. We've been through a lot, but it's brought all of us together.
お前にそう言ってもらえると気が楽になる。
His voice was warm. I could sense that he was happy from the bottom of his heart at the response I gave him.
の新選組に鉄の掟は必要ねえんだ。大使どもは志を持つ侍ばかりだからな。
Yes. Everyone in the Shinsengumi now had the unity of vision that brought a clarity of purpose, hopefully meaning that Hijikata's burden would lessen a little. Well, from now on, please don't try and hide your problems from me. I'm here to help you. You don't have to do this alone anymore. It was a sincere request from me. He was silent then, but his arms stayed wrapped around me. Then, at last, he spoke. I moved closer, as his voice was barely above a whisper.
そばにいてくれ。
And that phrase alone had so much meaning behind it. I had nothing more to say.
Wow.
雪村先輩、お久しぶりです。俺たち、先輩が来るのをずっと待ってたんですよ。
Oh, hello, Soma. What's up? That was beautiful. That was so beautiful. Also, love these boys. Always good to see them. They're so cute.
Soma, Nomura.
どうでした？感動の再会は。
I think everybody shipped it.
What do you mean by how was it? I couldn't answer him with a straight face, so I muffled my voice. Nomura's face blushed with color.
雪村先輩と離れ離れになってから、副長は物思いに沈んだ顔をしていることが多くて。
He's like, man, the chief was really sad after he left you behind.
やっぱり副長のおそばには先輩がいなきゃダメだって俺たちも痛感しました。
でも、これからはずっとお二人で一緒にいられますよね。
Well, yes. I'm sure we can.
懐かしい声がすると思ったら、あなたも蝦夷地に来ていたんですね。
Oh dear. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear.
I knew that voice. Iba! You're safe! But you're injured.
新政府軍との戦いで少々手傷を負ってしまいまして。
伊庭さんはこの間の選挙で歩兵頭並み遊撃隊隊長に選ばれたんですよ。
I suspect they're just sort of not bothering to deal with the art being the Oni arm thing, because he does the real Iba did in fact like lose an arm during all of the conflicty stuff. I think this is just the regular ass injury, not like spooky demon arm. Anyway, he's the head of infantry, so that's cool.
Really? That's fantastic news. Congratulations.
この体でどれだけのことができるのかはわかりませんが、こうなったら最後までトシさんと共に戦い続けるだけです。
No, it wasn't for playing with bugles. The real Iba was kind of an unmitigated badass in the best of ways. There are some good stories about him if you dig into the history.
The Shinsengumi is the symbol of the true samurai. As the words came out of my mouth, Iba's expression softened and he smiled proudly.
早くからトシさんたちを見出した僕は先見の明があったってことでしょうか。ここでなら僕も武士としての生を全うできる。
Iba。
何かあったらいつでも声をかけてください。みんなあなたとトシさんの味方ですよ。
Casual reminder, Iba's been in love with us forever. Like, he canonically always loves us and just apparently is okay with handing us off if it means we're happy. So let's just sit with that for a minute, huh?
Noel!
That's true. We saw how long he's willing to wait. Yeah, Nomura trained a whole lot under Nagakura, so I think he just inherited the bro squad aesthetic a little bit.
I shall.
Nagakura basically was like, see my entire chest. His Western outfit is pretty wide open. We've seen it. He also doesn't bother to wear his sleeves all the way down. He cuffs them at the elbows, which I can deeply appreciate.
As Hijikata's page, I spent every day assisting him in his duties. Since coming to Ezo, he'd seemed much more at ease during the daylight hours.
Yes, more of a naval line, correct.
Perhaps there was something about the northern climate that was affecting his fury blood. My job saw me spending more time around Hijikata than I ever had before. It was interesting, to say the least.
3 buttons undone at all times. Yeah, correct. Also, like, what was it? In Sano's route, after the Western clothing, like, reveal, he literally is like, oh, hey, what's up? And just shows us his outfit and unbuttons, like, 2 or 3 more buttons in front of us, whilst kind of kabe-doning Chizuru. It was a whole time.
He began treating me quite nicely. I felt a little bad that I was getting spoiled, but whenever I was around him, my heart pounded. My breaths became quick and shallow just by being in his presence. One day, just after the beginning of the new year, Otori came to visit Hijikata. Please, have some tea.
ああ、お構いなく。土方陸軍奉行並みの小将は優秀だね。こんな子、どこで捕まえてきたんだい？
そいつは俺に連絡なしに勝手に辞令を出した誰かに聞いてくれ。
This entire conversation. I love these two.
僕は気を利かせたつもりだったんだけど、羨ましくなってきちゃったな。可愛くて海外しい小将さんなんて文句のつけようがないよね。
No, I'm... My cheeks felt like they were burning up. I tried frantically to busy myself with the tea. I was hoping, perhaps senselessly, to avoid meeting anyone's eyes. Hijikata glanced at me for a moment, then back at Otori, his face calm and serene.
まあな、こんな奴がそばにいてくれるんなら、もう他の故障を置く気にはならねえよ。
Oh, hey.
I nearly dropped the tea.
He's just like, well, no need to hide my feelings now.
Otori also looked rather surprised, but quickly raised his cup to his lips in an attempt to hide it. I felt as if I should say something, but when I opened my mouth, nothing came out.
Yup, that's about right.
My heart pounded so fast.
まさか土方くんがそこまで言うとはね。僕も彼女みたいなお嫁さんが欲しいよ。
Oh, damn.
悪いが他を当たってくれ。こいつは俺のもんだ。手放すわけねえだろ。
Well, does that count as a proposal? Did we get proposed to and we didn't did we blink and miss that?
"のろけられてしまったね."
My face was growing hotter by the moment. By now, my ears were probably the same shade of brilliant scarlet as my cheeks.
土方くんがこんな調子じゃ、あんまり長居すると怒られそうだね。
Otori's like, I should leave you two alone, huh? God, he ships it so much.
With one last grin at me, he turned to Hijikata. When he spoke, his voice was grim.
本題に入るけど、奴ら来ると思うかい？
来るさ。雪が溶ければすぐにでもな。
土方くんが言うなら間違いないな。実はね、僕も同じように考えていたんだ。
I mean, Otori's the whole reason we got here to catch up to Hijikata, so I would say he might be the best wingman. He pulled rank and all sorts of, political bullshit to get us here.
榎本さんは話し合いで解決したいらしい。でも僕はまず戦争になると思ってる。
戦いになるだろうな。新政府が俺たちを見逃すとは思えねえ。
Oh. At last I understood.
榎本さんたちは反対するだろうが、俺たちは春までに戦支度を済ませておくべきだな。
そのあたりは心配しないでくれ。根回しは済ませておくよ。
しかし、この蝦夷に来てあんたと意見が合うとは思わなかったな。
そうだね。今だから言うけど、最初に会った時は面食らったよ。
そりゃこっちのセリフだ。いきなりシェイクハンドがどうのって言われた時はどうしようかと思ったぜ。
Oh, look at these two. Their work friendship is real cute.
僕は生まれつきの武士じゃないからね。
俺もだよ。もともとは玉の百姓のせがれだからな。
でもそんな君が今は誠の武士として皆の尊敬を集めている。生まれなんて関係ないさ。大切なのは志だよ。
You are a pretty wise dude, Otori. That's also a really good line.
Otori and Hijikata were two very different people, but listening to his passion as he talked, there was no doubt that he was similarly admired by his men. His words resonated with me especially. I was born into a family of demons, but here I was. All my life I'd thought I was human. Nothing more, nothing less. But the truth in this discovery gave me life beyond who I thought I was, and they accepted me.
僕たちは自分が信じるもののために戦う道を選び取った。
The real Otori was pretty neat too, if you read a little bit about him. They seem to represent him fairly well here. He lives beyond the end of the war, and he goes on to do some pretty neat things. He ended up going into education and stuff, I believe.
「自らの足で歩んできた道の先が今に続いてたってだけの話さ。」
何があろうと俺たちの志は絶対に折れねえ。視力を尽くして最後まで挑み続ける。
同意するよ。邪魔したね。
He bowed to both of us, stood up, and let himself out. There's going to be a battle? I set about clearing the teacups.
千鶴、来い。
Eh?
He turned and stepped out of the room without even waiting for my response.
Yeah, pretty much. He did spend some time in prison as a result of all of this, but in doing so led to some reforms and all sorts of crazy stuff like that. It's pretty wild.
Huh? I set the teacups down again and trotted after him. Outside, the wind was frigid. Without thick clothing, it cut straight through to the bone. We looked out over Ezo, blanketed in snow.
向こうに山が見えるだろう。
Yeah. Some miles distant, a row of snow-covered peaks thrust their way up into the slate-gray sky like jagged teeth.
奴らはあの山を越えて函館に迫ってくる。
Why not from the ocean? They'd have to come by ship. There was no other way to Ezo. That meant they'd have to land somewhere to unload troops, so I assumed they'd try and take the port first.
真っ向から挑んでくるほど向こうもバカじゃねえさ。戦いってのは敵の弱点をつくもんだ。新政府軍がこの蝦夷地に攻め込むなら、乙部や江差のあたりから上陸するだろうな。
Those are some places. Interesting to note, the Goryokaku fortress, which is where we are right now, still stands today. It's like an interesting, I think it's kind of like a pentagonal shape or whatever. There's photos of it you can see on Wikipedia. But yeah, this whole area and Hakodate are still there.
函館港には遠洋から砲撃を加える。俺たちは挟み撃ちされるってわけだ。
Yeah, it's like a giant star.
We were at a disadvantage then. Isn't there anything we can do?
残念だが、海からの攻撃は止められねえ。船での戦になりゃ押し負けちまうからな。この五稜郭は最後の戦場になるだろう。俺が武士として刀を抜くのもここで終わりだ。
Hijikata. Did that mean he believed he would die? I was desperate to talk about something else. It could have been anything else, really. So I said the first thing that came into my head. So, if they don't come, then what will you do? There was no doubt that they would come, but I couldn't help but dream that maybe, just maybe, they wouldn't.
奴らが来なけりゃ、ただ終わるだけだな。新選組がいらねえ時代が来るってことだ。
A new era where samurai weren't needed? Where men were no longer compelled to draw swords against one another? Could such a future ever come to pass? I felt my heart swell with a desperate hope that it might.
Oh boy. We should save. It's been a bit. And we are technically at time. We are also 4 choices away from the end of the game, so I think we'll end up finishing this next weekend. Let's go into the gallery though, because I need to grab some screenshots of the full SADs. Like that. Yeah, like this sure was a lot, right? Oh, this hurt. Let me see here. It's weird. It wouldn't let me, like, do the thing. But yeah, ow. Owie, ow, ow, ow. Should we do his DLC real quick? Those are usually short, and I don't want to forget about doing it. I think... I'm not sure what it is, but we're close enough to the end. I imagine it's probably safe to do. Well, we'll hold. Because I don't know... We'll probably... With like 4 choices to go, the next one might not last like the whole time. So we'll see what we do. Woof. Also, hi, Deathlike Scads. Let us Let us get to the bye-bye screen. I mean, we'll be okay at the end. We do at least, you know, get the boy at the end of the routes. That's a constant in Hakuoki. We will. Yeah, we'll be done with Hakuoki next week. That's gonna be so weird. I'm still processing that concept, honestly. I mean, we won't really be done with it because we'll come back and replay it every now and then. we have the greatest hits. We have to go back and do the Hanzo route, and then we'll come for Nightshade. Then we'll come back here and we'll do the Heisuke route and probably a few other faves. But before we do that, we're gonna end up diving into Code Realize for a bit. We've been playing Hakuoki for over 2 years. Over 2 years. It's been a long time. Yeah, about 2.5 years. Turns out 12 routes takes a while. It used to be like two days a week, but then we started mixing in some others. Because I used to play it on Saturdays and Sundays, but then we mixed in different ones. We started juggling it with Nightshade, like alternating routes and things. So it hasn't been like consistently every Saturday for all that time, and there was a bit of a break, but we've been going pretty consistently for like 2.5 years. Most of those playthroughs are on YouTube. I've uploaded quite a few of them. I think there's a few that I need to sort out and like get them pulled together in playlists and stuff. They're unedited. They're not like, I don't have time to manage a YouTube channel, friends. I just don't, and I don't want to. But I archive them because people have asked me to. But yeah, Heisuke was the first route we officially did once we decided to just start following walkthroughs and stuff. Then I think we went to like Kazuma, which was not a great time. Some Sano, some Soji, etc., etc. We've been through a whole bunch of them. But some folks, many of the folks here were not here for the Heisuke route, and it's a good route. So it deserves to be seen by all. There's a reason he is one of the first emotes. So yeah. It is Hakuoki is the backbone upon which my channel stands, I guess. So there's that. But there would be time enough for reminiscing at another point. Tomorrow, we will be back into Psychedelica of the Ashen Hawk, which also promises to be sad and full of emotions, and yikes. That's going to be fun. Tonight was delightfully emotionally engaging for me to do Chizuru lines. I can't wait to do Jed stuff tomorrow. I say in all earnestness, I can't wait. It's going to be exciting. Stands on general romantic garbage of the best variety. That is right. That's why we're here. A kaleidoscope of emotions, one might say, indeed. Well, friends, if it's early where you are, have a lovely day. If it's late where you are, go get some sleep and do the lovely day thing tomorrow.
And until the next stream, have no chill in the things that bring you joy. I don't have anything clever for this one. Anyway, I'm really glad Hijikata finally hugged us and acknowledged his feelings. That was so good.